All right, class, let's jump in here. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about chapter 11. This is all about how we get new products. So, if you remember the marketing mix, one of those items is the product. And so, there are lots of different ways to have new products. This is a really straightforward chapter, and just some few things that I'm going to highlight today. If you've been taking your mind tap quizzes and going through the unit, this should be pretty familiar to you, but I just want to kind of take a little bit of time to overview a few of the things. So today we're going to talk about why we need new products, the process of creating new products, why some products do well, why some products do not do well. And then what the very, very important thing is the product's life cycle. So new products are something that are a hallmark of any business. Um, I'm going to kind of start with the product's life cycle to explain this, but um, the product life cycle can move very, very slowly. And so the idea is that these products kind of like live and die, just like a plant or an animal or a person. They start with a very slow introduction, and they theoretically go through the process of the decline, and then they die. And so sometimes this happens very quickly for businesses, and sometimes this happens very, very slowly. And so when we speak of new products and the importance of new products, that can mean something different for every single industry. Regardless, new products are important because they help businesses sustain growth. So there are companies out there that they heavily rely on new product development. They have huge teams of people out there developing new products because they know if they don't continue to evolve, that they get behind. So, a great example of this would be Apple. Apple has a giant new product development team, and all they do in their entire business plan relies on them to continuously create new phones, create new technology, and to stay on top of things because they have to remain relevant in the technology world. They've done very well at this, as you all know. If you have an iPhone or you have an Apple Watch or you've seen an Apple product, you know that they do very well at marketing themselves, and they do very well at releasing new products and creating new things that people want. So it's important to sustain growth. If think about if Apple only had the phone that they used 15 years ago and iPhones really started to become popular, that wouldn't be so great. They would have gotten left behind. So they really try to sustain growth, increase profits and revenue, obviously, and replace obsolete items. Like I said, some companies spend a lot of money to do this, and the new product process is also can be very difficult for people. So if you take Apple out of the mix and you think about a small business that's trying to offer something new or create something new, or like my bakery example from before, kind of or trying to make a new recipe or create a new food, something food related, that can be difficult and cost prohibitive in a lot of ways. So let's just talk through new products. So there's kind of a continuum, right? We talk about the differences in new products, but we have all these different types. And I'm not going to read each one of these to you, but I want you to go back into your book if you haven't and look at these 6 categories of new products. Example, some are new to the world, they're brand new, they've never been seen, and some are improvements, some are tweaks to current products, and then some are even repositioned or lower price products. So if you think about repositioning, remember you're changing the way that a customer sees a product. So let's say there's a really expensive skincare line, and then they come out with a lesser one that costs less money, and they're trying to be more accessible in, let's say, drugstores and um, grocery stores versus having to go to a department store and purchase very expensive skincare. They're repositioning themselves to be seen by more people and to be viewed as something that's easier to attain because of a cost. And so that's an example of a repositioned product or a lower price product. And sometimes those two things can go hand in hand. So there is a process here that you will need to know. You will be tested over this, how this process works, what all of these things entail. This is a visual representation of how a product will fit into um, current and future businesses. And so, if you think about having a new product strategy, going through the ideas, kind of looking at your market, developing a product, testing a product, and then releasing a product, there's like a funnel that takes place. And so you might have lots and lots of ideas. If you think about these, all these balls that you're putting in a funnel, you have lots of ideas up here. And as you go through these steps, your position and what you're doing gets narrower. So, a new product strategy and idea screening, product development, screening, concept tests, business analysis, development, test marketing, commercialization, and finally releasing the product down here. If you remember the one little ball that gets through the funnel, go back through and kind of know the characteristics of all of these different elements. Products can fail. That's a thing, right? We all understand that we've consumed a product of some type that then has turned around and you couldn't get it anymore because it failed. After all of those steps, if you go through all those steps in that funnel, it doesn't mean that a product is going to do well. So you may have overestimated how big your market is. You may have not found the correct marketing mix. You may have prices too high, prices too low. You may not have promoted your product well. And you may just have a product that nobody wants, an inferior product. And so just know some of these reasons and why products can fail. Something that I like to do in my face-to-face class is we talk a lot about diffusion of innovation and how, and I want you to look it up if you have a chance. Diffusion of innovation is a theory that talks about how quickly somebody adopts a product. And so if you have a brand new product, you have all of these different categories. You have innovators, you have early adopters, early majorities, late majorities, and laggards. You can't see it right there, but that says laggards. This is how we can tell where we are. And these two things go hand in hand with this product life cycle. So I want you to look, in your book, there is a chart of the product life cycle, and that compares how each of these categories, how quickly they adopt. And so when you look at it, I'll actually pull it up for you real quick because I want you to see this. This theory is applied in the medical field. This theory can be applied in many, many different contexts. So I'm going to blow that up. Let's see here. All right. So here we go. You'll see here the percentages are important. And remember, I said this goes hand in hand with the product life cycle. So the percentages here in this theory, and it's a tried and true tested theory. That was a tongue twister. They will show that you've got a majority of your people in the middle of this curve. Y'all have all seen this curve in terms of maybe grading in a class or other contexts. And so this is no different. Your majority of the people lay in the middle of the curve. The tails right here, the laggards and the innovators, are the least amount of people. So if your product is very, very early on and you're early on in your product life cycle, that probably means that only your innovators or your early adopters have started using your product. Now, if you look and you think that you've started to get people with late majority characteristics, and you can look up, I'm going to ask you to look up what are the characteristics of each of these different people. They talk about it in your book, these types of people. If you're starting to get people to adopt your new product and they're in the late majority or they're a laggard and you're not selling a lot of your product, your new products, that probably means your new product's not going to last very long. If you are having a huge amount of sales right here or here, then you stand a chance. Remember, I said products can fail. And so this is a really good way to kind of gauge where the opinion leaders are and where people are in terms of adopting your new product and how well you're doing. So let me jump back over here. The spread of new products, there are 5 characteristics. I'll have you look at that as well. But there are different characteristics that are involved with how we adopt and the rate of acceptance and diffusion in terms of a new product. So that goes right back to understanding this diffusion of innovations. These 5 things go hand in hand with that. So make sure you understand that. Then we're going to look at the product life cycle again. Does this look familiar? You see the curve here? Very similar. The product life cycle is the idea, again, that these products live and die just like a plant or an animal or a person. They have this introductory stage, a growth stage, a maturity stage, and a decline stage. Your thought here is that you are doing, and you're going to need to know this chart whenever we start to talk about promotion. Remember, today we're talking about products themselves and that part of the marketing mix. But the thought is that here we have different types of promotion at different stages. And we'll talk about that in a later chapter. But wherever we are in the product life cycle, whether it's brand new to the market, whether it's still growing within the market, whether it's mature or it's declining, indicates the way that we need to market our product. So here is a great example of where innovators, early adopters, early majority lie. This is in your book as well. The diffusion curve alongside the product life cycle is the purple one. And you can see that if we are over here, and let's say we come out, we're working at the bakery and we come out with a brand new type of breakfast item. And we're starting to tell people about this breakfast item. And it's kind of new and it's funky and it has weird flavors. And you know that these innovators and these early adopters are people who are going to start really early. But then you start getting your customers that order the same thing all the time and they're not real adventurous and they don't really know what they want, or they know exactly what they want. They don't really know if they want to try new things. Those could be early or late majority. So at that point, you have over 40% here of your product life cycle. See, we're about halfway through this purple curve. So if you have half of your people have theoretically adopted and want to use your new product in this, and it's already in the growth stage and you're doing very poorly with your sales, then guess what? You might have to look at not having that new product anymore. That looks different, that metric, and where a company may decide, oh, we've got everybody we're going to get, the late majorities have adopted, and we're still not making the profits we thought. That may look different for any type of business. And so I can't sit here and say, oh, if you've reached this and you haven't sold 80% of your projections, then you need to pull the thing from the shelf. No, I don't know what that means for each business, but this is a really good indicator to be able to kind of understand what happens. So take a look at that for your exam. Make sure you understand what happens at each stage. Make sure you understand the characteristics of these different adopters, and take a look at these 5 characteristics, as well as all of these processes that are covered in this PowerPoint and in your textbook. So I hope that helps kind of highlight a few things that you want to look at for this chapter. And thanks for tuning in. Bye, guys.